With me now, Democratic strategist and managing partner of Boots Road Group, Spencer Critchley. Spencer, good to see you.
Good to see you, Liz.
All right, Spencer, there seems to be a general consensus among the left, especially the pundit class, that Robert Mueller did not help congressional Democrats in their quest to pursue impeachment against the president. He gave them no red meat. He actually hurt their cause. Do you agree with that characterization?
No, not at all. I think this is the difference between the age of TV and the age of reading, and Robert Mueller is very much a creature of the age of reading. He expects people to just read the Mueller report, and that's what he keeps saying, it's all in the report. Unfortunately, this is the age of TV, and almost nobody is going to read that report. If they did, that report is devastating to the president. I just encourage people to read it. Just read the executive summaries to Volume 1 and Volume 2. You don't have to read all 448 pages. It's a devastating picture of, yes, collusion, not proof of conspiracy, but there's collusion all over it, and at least 10 counts of felony obstruction of justice, which means we have a criminal in the Oval Office, and it's a criminal in the Oval Office who refused to fulfill his primary duty, which is to defend the United States against foreign attack. He denied that the Russians were doing this. The first pages of the Mueller report say there was a sweeping, systematic attack on our country by Russia.
That's true. That's true.
Refused to
but for a second, I thought you were talking about former President Obama,
refused to defend us against
who knew about those attacks and did nothing about it in the years leading up to the 2016 campaign and then the Trump administration. Okay, so you clearly disagree. You clearly disagree with a lot of the Democratic pundits on this. It's an interesting take. I hope that Robert Mueller himself was listening to your advice, and I hope he reads his own report, because it doesn't seem like he ever has before, based on his lack of answers to any questions about his report. But here's my question for you, Spencer.
A model of integrity and restraint.
Here's my question for you.
People like Jim Jordan don't recognize that when they see it. It's like an alien being.
Spencer, here's my question for you. You say that the report is a devastating characterization of the president. Here's my question for you. Was Robert Mueller wrong? Because he found no proof of conspiracy. He found between the president and the Russians, no proof of conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians. In fact, no proof of conspiracy between any American citizen and the Russians. And he presented no proof of a crime of obstruction of justice. You seem to be seeing something different. Was Robert Mueller wrong in his report?
Again, I'll repeat what I just said. Read the report. Unfortunately, Republicans know they live in the age of TV, and they're counting on people not reading it. And I would say to your listeners, they're counting on you not reading it. Just read the executive summaries. It is devastating. It's more than enough proof of the need for impeachment. More than 1,000 federal prosecutors from both serving under administrations of both parties.
Spencer, I understand that you don't like the president, but my question is, was Mueller wrong?
Not for the OLC memo,
he's a prosecutor, and he didn't find enough evidence to prove beyond reasonable doubt that a crime has been committed. Was he wrong? It's a very simple question. It's a yes or no question. Was he wrong? Do you believe that there was an actual crime? Because if so, Mueller's conclusion, you would have to say, is incorrect.
Mueller was crystal clear today. Again, if people would just listen to the words of one of the best of us who's being torn down by many of the worst of us, I would say, which is a typical pattern. They attack the messenger instead of engaging with the substance of the message. We're looking at a war hero being attacked, a man who's devoted his life to serving the United States being attacked to defend probably the lowest character president we've seen in the history of this country. This is the man that the founders wanted to
Spencer, you say you want to talk about substance. Please talk about substance. I understand you don't like the president. You have a right not to like the president. That's what makes our debate so much fun, that we come from different sides of the aisle. But talk about substance. Talk about substance. Was Robert Mueller wrong?
Robert Mueller was crystal clear, for example, that the reason he did not make a determination on obstruction of justice was only because of the OLC memo, that the Office of Legal Counsel had issued an instruction that you cannot indict a sitting president. He was crystal clear about that.
He was in the first session, and then I just want to correct this, because this is very, very important for our viewers to know. In the second session, the second hearing, Robert Mueller started his opening statement by saying, I need to restate and correct what I said this morning, that what I said to Attorney General Barr previously was the accurate statement, and that is that it wasn't solely based on the OLC opinion. It was not solely based on the OLC opinion. So he withdrew what he said this morning, and he corrected himself.
His clarification was exactly what I just said, that it's not that he could not find evidence, it's that he could not make the determination. And so he just laid out the case. Again, I challenge people to read what's actually there. In about 10 cases at least, it satisfies all three criteria for obstruction of justice. There is no other conclusion to come to that it affected a proceeding. There was a nexus with that proceeding, and there was corrupt intent. When the president ordered Don McGahn to fire the special counsel, and then he ordered people to create a false record to try to conceal that fact, that is obstruction of justice. It meets all three of those criteria. There are multiple cases like that.
Not if there's no underlying crime. Here's my question. This is really important, I think, for our viewers as well.
This is my question.
This is my question to you, Spencer.
If you try to rob a bank and you fail, it doesn't mean you're not guilty of trying to rob a bank.
Do you believe in the presumption of innocence until proven guilty?
Absolutely, and this is why we have impeachment.
I really want to make this point because this is really important. I don't believe that if you look at Robert Mueller's actions, when he says this does not exonerate the president, that is not the role of a prosecutor. In fact, that line indicates that he is violating the presumption of innocence until proven guilty, because if you cannot establish proof of a crime beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt, then that person exists in a state of exoneration. So if you believe in the presumption of innocence until proven guilty, and if you're unbiased, you would never make a comment about your conclusion not exonerating somebody from anything they're accused of. So my question would be, how can you justify that comment from Mueller at the same time that you are applauding his credibility and saying that he's correct about his conclusions?
Look at the standard we're applying to the President of the United States. The standard started with George Washington, and we're now at Al Capone, or Roy Cohn, one of President Trump's heroes, and the man he wished he had instead of Jeff Sessions, the notorious mob lawyer Roy Cohn. What our standard now for the president appears to be, he seems to be getting away with it. We are supposed to expect higher standards from all of our public officials, and certainly the President of the United States. Again, read what's in the report. It's absolutely devastating. Robert Mueller could not
This is the last time I'm going to ask this because we're almost out of time.
According to his understanding of the OLC memo, but what he's doing is
that he exonerates someone if we are operating under the burden of proof being the government, meaning the prosecutor, must establish beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody is guilty or somebody is guilty. Otherwise, they enjoy the presumption of innocence. How can those two things be at all justified together?
That standard doesn't apply if you're not prosecuting. And again, Robert Mueller was crystal clear. He felt he could not launch a prosecution against the president. But what this is a roadmap to the Congress to impeach this president. If this president shouldn't be impeached, no president ever should be impeached. Unfortunately, Republicans in Congress are betraying their duty to fulfill their Article 1 responsibilities as well as their duty to defend the Constitution, just like the president has
All right, Spencer, I hate to interrupt you. We're out of time, but one thing you hit the nail right on the head. Robert Mueller's that particular sentence is certainly a tip to congressional Democrats trying to enable them to start impeachment proceedings, yet there's no evidence that anything like that would ever be justified. Spencer, I do appreciate these debates. Thanks for being on the show, as always. When we come back, one final point about how the media and the Democratic Party are in total disarray. You don't want to miss this one. We'll be right back.